Hey guys, Rick here with a special episode today about what I think could be the future of fantasy sports, and it's stock market DFS, the ability to buy athletes, golfers, before the start of an NFL game, an NBA game, a golf tournament, and also trade them in real time for real money. Yes, that's right. You heard me right. It's incredible. This is a concept that many have tried, but there is an app out now for both iPhone and Android that I think is executing this really well, and it's called Jock Market. Dave Eisman, the co-founder of Jock Market, joins me in this episode to not only talk through the concept, the strategy, and then also the future of where this could go. I think it's a big money-making opportunity, especially if you want to get involved early right now. And Dave was gracious enough and generous enough to provide me with a promo code. So if you sign up for Jock Market and use the code RICK10 and deposit, they will give you an additional $10 in your account to play with. So you can try it out for even more. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this conversation about the future of fantasy sports, stock market DFS, and Jock Market. All right, let me welcome in Dave Eisman, co-founder of Jock Market. Dave, this conversation, my friend, is a long time coming. I'm absolutely stoked to kind of pick your brain a little bit about Jock Market and see what's going on. This has been so much fun for not only myself, but I know so many people in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Rick. Really excited.
So you are co-founder of this stock market DFS app company, I guess is a better way to phrase it. And this, first of all, the concept just blows my mind, right? I mean, I feel like the idea of being able to buy and sell athletes, whether they're golfers or NBA players or NFL players, not only before the game starts, but during the game. I remember when I first got my mitts on this, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like this is different than anything I've ever seen before."
Yeah, no, it's been really exciting. I think it's something that when DraftKings FanDuel came out, 8+ years ago, however long it's been, obviously changed from like season long into daily. Made a big shift into there, and really haven't really seen any big innovations. Sort of changing one now that while the games are happening, be able to take advantage of that, and really apply your knowledge and what you're seeing in the screen in the games to take advantage of that.
Well, I think that's kind of the natural progression, right? And we're seeing this from sports betting as well. Is like, okay, you can bet the game, the result of the game, and then you can bet maybe like a quarter or a half or something like that. And we're already starting to see this. Golf's my world, so we're already starting to see. You're going to be able to say, does Tiger Woods make a par or a birdie on this hole? And just the things that you can wager on, or the things that you can invest in, or whatever. The time frame's getting smaller. Data is getting quicker. All these apps are getting more efficient. So it feels like you guys are just kind of venturing into, not uncharted territory, but almost where you're buying and selling these stocks in game. That feels like the natural progression of the industry that we have going here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the live betting is certainly growing considerably. It's huge in Europe already. It's growing in the US a lot too. And, Jock Market's sort of like a medium for people who maybe have played fantasy sports but haven't been betting a lot in the past. So, sort of in a format they more understand, where it's based on the fantasy points, in real time.
Yeah, that's the difference that I think it took me probably a week or two to really wrap my head around it. Coming from the more traditional daily fantasy sites and moving over to Jock Market, and you have these different segments, I guess. IPO, to me, IPO, when the pricing comes out, and you can probably describe this better than I can, but that's when everybody can put their bids in on these athletes. And for a golf tournament, let's just say IPO ends Wednesday night at 9 p.m. before the tournament starts, and that's where everybody puts their bids in, right? That's where I'm trying to buy low. I'm trying to get as many shares of golfers as possible, and then those shares are distributed at the end of IPO, and then we get into like the live trading, right?
Yeah, and the really exciting part about that is so each player has a guaranteed payout, or each rank has a guaranteed payout at the end of the tournament.
I want to talk about that more in depth in a second, but go ahead.
Right. So quick example: 10th place pays out, let's say, $12 per share. So coming into the tournament in the IPO, you say, okay, I like Justin Thomas this week. He's definitely going to finish in the top 10, so I'm willing to pay whatever it is, $12 per share or more. So you can target your guys. You have your guys you like based on using the RickRunGood tools and whatever other research you have, and you say, all right, these are my 10 guys I'm targeting this week. And you put in your bids what you think they're worth. But the cool thing is that last hour, 2 hours of the IPO process, you're seeing, hey, I really don't like Bryson this week, but for $5, maybe it's worth a flyer, right?
Right.
Every guy, there's a price you should be willing to pay for every golfer or every athlete in there. And the live pricing really makes it dynamic, and you can, base it off what the market is telling you.
You could not have there are guys that I hate for the week, but I see that they're like $4 and I'm like, I don't hate them that much, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? There's a price out there for me. You mentioned the guaranteed payouts, and this is the kind of the thing that I noticed it a lot in when I was playing NBA during the playoffs and during the NBA finals is, you're getting shares of, say, LeBron James at whatever it is, $18. But those guaranteed payouts, whether, first is a $25 a share payout, second is, I think it's 20, right? Am I on track there? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's $20. So now you're really getting into the strategy of, okay, is LeBron going to be one of the top two scorers in this game because I'm paying $18 for him? So the guaranteed payout thing, it really, first of all, not only means that there is a lot of money up for grabs, but it also introduces another level of strategy that I don't know if I was ready for when I first started doing this. And I really had to retrain my brain a little bit.
Right. So a couple things. So one is the cool thing about Jock Market as compared to other sites where, let's say LeBron, you get him for $18 and he has a bad game and he finishes and his final payout is 10. Like, yes, you lost $8 a share, but you didn't go to zero. You didn't like completely brick your whole night just because one player didn't perform for you. So that's one aspect of it. And then also you got to think about like your expected value, right? Like for the NBA finals, LeBron's probably going to finish, Anthony Davis might beat him. Right. One guy in the Heat might beat him, but he's going to be in the top 3 or 4 at the very worst. Just kind of think about that. Like, yeah, there's a 75% chance it makes me money. And what does that mean? Versus, taking a flyer and a lower guy that might cost $3. There's a decent chance he'll go for 1. But let's say there's a 10% chance he bumps up to like $15 and you 5x your money, and just sort of factoring all those things in, and also your risk tolerance, right? Like, are you willing to take a $1 payout at the end, knowing that there was a percentage chance that you would actually, 3x, 5x, 10x your money?
So that's kind of where I've been with golf recently is, there's so many players in the field, and golf is such a volatile sport. And every single week, somebody that nobody was expecting to play well is going to finish in the top 10. It increases their payout in a significant way. But I do like the fact that, I'm not going. So if I buy, let's just for the sake of round numbers, buy Cameron Percy at $2 and I buy 10 shares of him and he ends up going down to $1, I've only lost $10 on him, right? Like, it's not that big. Like, you're right. There's not this like, oh man, I whiffed every single one of my lineups and I'm returning $0 like you would on many other fantasy sites.
Yeah, no, exactly. And someone pointed this out last week, but if you get even the lowest ranked golfers, like I think Michael Kim, he probably hasn't made a cut in
however long you want to go back, he has not made a cut.
so that might be a bad example. But another guy who's going to IPO for in golf for $1.50, $1.75, if they make the cut, they're basically doubling your money on that, or very close to it. So if they all have to do is finish 50th place, which really isn't I mean, for certain people it might be a lot, but for certain golfers, if you happen to like, hey, like, he played well at this course 2 years ago, it might be worth a flyer on this like no-name golfer who I would never consider in any other format. I wouldn't consider betting on him, but because there's this range of values and it's not binary, it's not win or lose. It's just something to factor into your portfolio.
Yeah. How did this whole idea come together? Like, how long have you guys been doing this? I mean, I know that you and I have connected in the last couple of months, and I can just from what I can tell, whether it's people tweeting at me how much they're playing, it seems to be taking off. But like, how big's the team over there? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, so we launched back in June. We were planning to launch in March or April for the Masters this year. Obviously, that got pushed back by a couple months. But it's been in development for a couple of years, through a couple of iterations of ideas and like the app versions and things. But yeah, we launched back in June. Our team is 6 people right now. So we have 4 engineers who are awesome, really great team. And then Tyler, my co-founder, as well. It was his idea originally, actually. So yeah, just 6 of us. We're all remote now, obviously, but based out of Boston, just trying to grind it out and, make a fun game that people seem to like. And it's a complicated process because we're not only the front end, like Robinhood type trading platform, but we're also matching the buyers and sellers in real time on the back end. So it's like we're Robinhood, but we're also like the NASDAQ. So it ends up being obviously it's a fairly complicated process, but it's going pretty well so far. So
I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, when you're trying to take something that is so I don't know. I have so many thoughts about this where you have something that is as established for people as the stock market, right? People kind of understand stocks and whether it's mutual funds or whatever they have, and then you're trying to take this what is still really a very young industry in daily fantasy sports, right? I mean, even the DraftKings and the FanDuels of the world are what 7, 8 years old, something like that, much younger, and you're trying to combine it. Like, I mean, this is an idea that I think many people have had, like this stock market fantasy or stock market sports, but they've all been executed pretty poorly, if I can say that. And
yeah,
and this feels different, right? I mean, you mentioned Robinhood. Like I have the Robinhood app. That's where I buy stocks and I mess around and I keep an eye on things. It feels very much like that. Is that I assume that's the goal is to find the path of least resistance, a user-friendly experience, and then also being able to incorporate this brand new sporting concept for people.
yeah, absolutely. So I think that to your point about the older iterations, other iterations that have happened, obviously there's been some very talented people, big names behind them that haven't worked out for various reasons. I think one of the big things for now is that, if they were even 4+ years ago, like having the experience on mobile is really a game changer where you can sit in front of your TV and trade. Whereas like, I don't know, you might have your laptop in your living room, whatever, but you don't have like a trading station like some of those other apps may have needed.
Right.
The other thing is we have a guaranteed payout at the end of the tournament, the end of the night, the end of the week, whatever it is. So there's a tangible value. You're not trading baseball cards. You're not trading whatever, where you just need someone willing to pay more than you. Because we are guaranteeing the payout at the end. So I think those two things make our iteration, set up to succeed much better. There are other things about the gameplay and the other intricacies of the game that I think have made it very sustainable and that people seem to enjoy. So I think all those pieces factor in. But yes, the Robinhood thing is, we get that comparison a lot. That certainly they have an amazing platform, obviously, that they're able to, sort of gamify stock trading where it's like,
Right.
I don't know anything about stock trading, so I can go through and, I understand this. I click a button and my trade is filled, right? So we're trying to get more and more like them because they've obviously figured something out. So yeah.
Are you finding it difficult or challenging to basically educate people? Right. I mean, I think this is so unique and so interesting that there is a built-in education process into this, and I see it a lot too. I mean, the tweets that I get or the messages that I get where they're like, "Hey, how should I be taking advantage of IPO? Like, when should I be selling? Like, what is this bid versus ask price? Like, this because it is so innovative, there's obviously a built-in level of education that needs to happen for the user base."
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say since we launched, that's probably been the number one thing we've been focused on is just how do we craft the explanation so that people will get it. You have to in within the first like 10 seconds give them enough information where, hey, I get the concept of the game. I know obviously I'm not going to get all the details, but like it's interesting and now I want to learn more. And then also giving them something in a 1 minute video, a 3 minute video,
Yeah.
or a blog post that they'd rather read in a way that's going to get enough information to them to get started and then have them sort of figure it on their own. I think you've been absolutely unbelievably helpful where being another like a support desk person for us as people ask you on Twitter, and just having people who like you're a trusted name, right? People come to your site because they trust what you say about fantasy and betting and golf, and now you're saying, okay, I'm willing to listen to Rick for 5 minutes talk about this because like I trust he's done that. So that's been a big help for us as well. But I can't tell you how many times I wrote and rewrote our like getting started or how to play pages just based on feedback and everything. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, and it gets me amped up to it. And I mean, this is the concept behind it. I mean, the more people that are playing, the more people that are involved, the better it is, right? So
Right.
I think that, and especially because, and I'd even noticed this. I mean, this week for the golf IPO, like it felt more competitive. If it just felt like there were more people out there, I don't know if it's now because Android's on the scene and those guys are coming in to play. It just felt, which is great because then, while that might hinder my ability a bit in IPO, for example, from a personal, just like selfish standpoint, the in-game trading, I feel like becomes awesome when you have just a bunch of people in there buying and selling shares of golfers at all times.
Yeah, you know what's funny is the people who have been playing for a while seem to call out either on Twitter or email, like, "Hey, was this IPO more expensive, or were there more people in it?" And it's funny when people have been in it and they sort of get a feel for how the market goes. They're generally pretty accurate. So yeah, I mean, we've grown. Our users have grown considerably since we started. I think our first golf market had, I want to say, 70 people in it or something, and we've been literally every single market. I mean, the Masters was a
Of
nice high
course.
water mark for us, but it's really been growing week over week, and it's been super exciting. We do have a system that will dynamically ratchet up more shares as we get more money in the IPO. So technically, it shouldn't get more expensive because there's more supply to meet the demand. But that said, if you know, if you have half your followers playing Jock Market and you're recommending someone, generally there's going to be more and more competition for it. But
You know, I've noticed that. I've noticed that they like during the live chat, I'm like, oh, this is an interesting. I have seen it times where I mentioned somebody and then I checked it back like 10 minutes later and that guy was like $3 more expensive. I'm like, I gotta
yeah,
stop doing this.
yeah, you got to hold a whole couple in your pocket to bet on.
It's all good. And that's what's cool about, not having to fit underneath a salary cap, not having to like, there is always a golfer at a price that interests
Right.
me, or there is always an NFL player at a price, right? I mean, if we say that there's a price for everything, right? You can get me to stand on my head for 12 straight hours. There's a price for that for me to try to do that. So I think that's super interesting. I do want to kind of get into some of the semantics of the game because we've got your expertise here, and we can focus a little bit on golf, but I want to also kind of focus on other sports, right? I mean, it's been I don't play on DraftKings or on FanDuel or anything like that for the NFL, but I constantly find myself in IPO on Jock Market, like, oh, Josh Allen, that's kind of interesting, right? So I don't know what it's just like. It's fun, it's easy. The barrier of entry is so small to get into. So let's talk about some of the semantics here. So what we've been talking about is IPO. So Dave, describe this. This is a period before the event, the game starts, where it's I don't want to call it a bidding free for all, but everyone can just kind of bid on which players or which stocks that they want. You can see the price move, and then those are being allocated at some point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So like for a golf tournament, like you mentioned, so it starts at about 2 p.m. Eastern until 9 p.m. Eastern, the the day before the golf tournament starts. For NFL, it's 8 a.m. to noon before the Sunday event, and for any single game, it's generally for 4 or 5 hours before the game starts. So every player in the event. So for golf, we have every golfer in the field. For NFL, it's limited to the top 70 or 120, depending on the field, just to make sure there's enough interest in every player.
Which I like. I think that was very smart to do, by the way. The set,
Yeah.
the
So
set.
and that will grow over time as our user base grows. But so every share of every player starts at $1, which is our minimum payout. So if they finish dead last, they pay out $1. And then we start with a certain number of shares in every player. We don't necessarily expose that to people because very soon we're going to get to the point where there's the number of shares is more than any one person can afford. So it shouldn't matter how many shares there are, which I'm sure is a question you get a lot. It's a question we get a
Yes.
lot.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before about the share ratcheting. So if we get more interest than we expected, we ratchet up the number of shares to make more available to meet demand. And they are available at the same IPO price. So if a current, the price is $3 and then we ratchet, in order to get more shares, you're still at whatever that price was. So the prices are bid up by users. So the price will stay at $1 until all shares are spoken for. And the actual intricacies of the auction, we don't need to get into right now, but it's
Right.
basically what's called a second price auction where you pay a penny more than the next guy who missed out on shares.
Let's dive into that because
Yeah.
that is one of the top two questions that I get on a regular basis. And it's also, so what I noticed is, first of all, when you experience your first IPO and it's the final 15 minutes or 30 minutes, I mean, it's chaos. It's awesome. It's like the most fun time of my week. And there's a lot going on. You're constantly being outbid. So what I tell, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dave, what I tell new players who are kind of dipping their toe into it for the first time is you don't have to bid 5 cents more than what the current price is. I usually don't, right? So if I see a golfer who's currently priced at $3.50 and I really like him, I might put in a bid at 5.50, $5.50, knowing that I'm only going to pay 1 cent more than that final price. I hearken this back to when I was on eBay, like, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and I put my proxy bid in, right, which is just my maximum bid, and it raises it for me. So I don't have to actually be present placing a bid every single second to the close of IPO.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that a lot of people, especially their first couple tournaments, they're going to end up doing that and say like, all right, the price is currently $2. I'll just put it 201. But the second, even immediately as you put that in, you're probably outbid
Right.
because
Somebody else already has a $3 bid in or something.
right. So I think what's important, and we talked about this a little bit, but if you say, all right, this golfer, his fair value rank is, or final rank, I think he's going to finish like 50th place, 30th place, whatever that is. And you can see that in the app. If you click on any player's face, you can scroll up and down and see what the relative pricing would be based on each final position, and also in the valuations tab in the app.
Yes.
But I think what you said is something that a lot of people don't necessarily do, where if you want to be active in the last hour and you want to put only raise the bid by a couple cents and keep doing that, that's a great way to get some value. But if you have certain golfers you're targeting that you really like you mentioned, put a higher bid in, and you most likely, unless you are the absolute lowest bidder, you're going to pay less than what you bid, right. And that money will be returned to you once the IPO ends.
Yeah, and I find myself sometimes. I mean, there are just some, whether it's a Sunday or like I'm just not going to be around in those final 30 minutes, so I'm going to put some bids in and make sure that I can at least be competitive if that price does go up. One other thing, real quick, you mentioned the Oh, actually, before I forget, I have so much to talk about, Dave. I hope that's okay. So, a quick strategy: turn your notifications on. Okay, you gotta turn your notifications on to tell you you've been outbid, and it takes like 5 seconds to go in and drop another bid on somebody. But for like the first 2 weeks, I didn't have the notifications on, and I'd open it up later, and I'm like, oh, how did I lose out on these guys? I'd much rather get the notification, open up the app, go in there, and reallocate my funds in the IPO phase. So that is, in my opinion, like that's not even a strat. That's like the best tip I can give anybody is make sure your notifications are on.
You can also, I 100% agree. You can also change which types of notifications you get within the app. So if you only want to get outbid ones, you can get that. We also push one out for any major event. So like the NFL main slate, or when the golf is like an hour or so before the IPO closes. So if you completely forgot or you're busy or whatever, you can hop in, place a couple bids, and we'll let you know.
You mentioned fair value rank, and this is part of the education process. This is part of the new terminology, right? There is already built-in terminology for other daily fantasy sites. Now you guys are innovating, and there's now new terminology. So this fair value rank, and essentially what you were mentioning is you can click on a golfer or an athlete. I shouldn't just say just for golfers, and essentially you can see what their current price is, kind of compare it to what they, if they finished as the third highest scoring golfer, for example, what that payout would be. And that goes into the strategy of if this price is worth it to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key is each final rank has a guaranteed payout. So think about where you expect this guy to finish, what the likelihood is he finishes above a certain rank, or has a terrible game and finishes way down the bottom, and what those returns mean to you. And that's just kind of determines how much you think you should bid, because you can just say like, yeah, I want to buy shares of Bryson DeChambeau, like great, yeah, everybody wants shares of him, but there's a certain price where, like you mentioned, there's a price for everything, but there's also a price where it's not worth it anymore, right? If he's going for $15 and he has to finish in the top 3 to make you money, that's probably not worth it. So just really thinking about the price to the value, the price you're paying right now to the value you're going to get paid out at the end.
At the end of IPO, all of those, the winning shares are allocated. The price, if I had $5 as my max bid, and the golfer goes for $3.51, that's where those shares are being allocated. And then we enter the live trading session of this. And Dave, this is why I feel, and other sports are great with this, especially football is good because there's kind of different slates for it, but the natural cadence of golf, where kind of after each round you can almost that's when I go in. I try to get a little frisky during live trading, and I'll sell Rory at the wrong time at the Masters, and I'll blow that trying to get rid of Rory on Thursday. But I really do love the natural cadence of golf where, okay, after round 1, let me check the prices. Let me see what's going on. Is there an opportunity to buy someone that I think might move up the leaderboard? Is there an opportunity to sell somebody? I can do that after the second round. I can do it after the third round. Of course, you can do it more frequently than that, Dave. I just kind of think that the sport it allows a great natural pause, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think even between holes, the things can change so much.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the you asked about the original, like where this company started, where so Tyler, co-founder, and I were at the Deutsche Bank a few years back. I can't remember the exact year, but so this is the in Boston. So
Yeah.
the final round was Ricky Fowler and Henrik Stenson were battling for the lead, and Stenson was up by one. We're standing on the 16th green or just off the 16th green. Stenson hits his tee shot in the water, ends up making a double. Rory makes a par, or Ricky makes a par, takes the lead by one, and goes on to win. But you imagine like the volatility right there. Like,
Of course.
as you see, oh, Henrik just hit the ball in the water. Like, he's now going from a $25 projected payout down to 20, maybe even worse. But that's, a 20% swing. There's probably an opportunity to buy. There's probably an opportunity where someone like, hey, thinks, I think Stenson's going to bounce back from this. Whatever it is, buying low, sell high. Like, let the market decide. And like you mentioned, like, if you own shares of Ricky right there, maybe someone would be willing to like pay $24, which you might be giving up $1 of upside, but you're also locking in your profit there. So, and even actually some of the best trades we've seen, the highest ROI buys made in live trading, what we'll see is like, so someone will IPO, let's say for $4, then they get sold for $6, halfway through their game or, during the first round. So whoever bought them in IPO just made 50% profit. That's great.
Right.
But we've seen a lot of times that $6 guy, let's say he goes to 25. So this other person also Forex this money. So not only, so you have two people making a profit, one person had a good reason to lock in a 50% profit. The other person wanted to take on this risk and Forex their money. And, now everyone's sharing in the upside. So, it's a win, basically for both people.
And that's what I love about, as the market gets more liquid, as more people are playing, there is someone out there might be willing to buy when others aren't, or someone might be willing to sell when others aren't. It just presents so many cool opportunities to further enjoy the game. So what the numbers that you'll see in the lobby are the bid and the ask, right? And that is maybe one of the most difficult aspects for people to grasp what's going on there, right? So you have their current value, you have the bid, and then the ask price. Now that I finally have an expert to tell me what is going on, I'd like to hear your explanation. And I'm sure you've probably rewritten this 100 times on the website. Like how should we be using these numbers and what do they actually mean?
That's a great question. I actually had someone email me this morning asking that. So
Yeah.
I'm well practiced in it. So the bid price is the highest outstanding offer to buy shares of that player at the moment. So let's say you were talking about Rory McIlroy, right?
Yep.
You want to buy shares of him. Let's say, Rick, you put in a buy for $5 a share. I come in and I put down $6 per share. Next to Rory, that number is going to update from 5 to 6 because that's the highest outstanding bid. So if I own shares of Rory, I know that if I wanted to sell him immediately, there's an open offer right there to buy him for $6. So I can put in 6 and it would sell for that. I can put in a little less to see if I can, maybe that $6 order wouldn't fill all my shares, something like that. But that's the number where you wanted to sell it immediately. There's someone willing to buy for that.
So you could have someone who bids $6 and they're saying they're willing to buy 5 shares, but I have 10 shares of Rory and I could fill 5 of those, but I would still be left with 5 other shares of Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't know how many shares are outstanding, but once you place the bid, or once you execute your sell, if there's a match, it'll fill immediately. You'll get notified, and you'll be able to see how many shares are still outstanding from your order. And you can cancel it, you can edit it, you can try again.
So then the ask has to be the opposite side of this, which is, okay, I want to sell Rory McIlroy and I'm willing to sell him for $7. And if you want to buy him, you know that you can go in and buy $7 shares of Rory McIlroy right now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's the lowest priced offer out there to sell shares immediately. So another thing you can do, let's say, I don't think $7 is worth it. I'd rather pay $6.25. You can put a bid out there for $6.25, and then if the person who's trying to sell Rory is looking in the app, they can see, all right, well, I'm offering $7 at $6.25. Maybe I'm willing to pay $6.25. Maybe I'll lower my ask and try to close that gap. And that's one of the things that as we get more and more users, that will naturally, that bid ask spread will naturally shrink. There should be better and better liquidity. There's already pretty good. There's the amount of trading that happens right now it's just constant. People are always in there trading, which is great, and that's what we want to see. And it's really only going to improve as we get more and more users.
Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, again, I don't have access to the analytics. I just go off of what people send me messages in Slack or tweet me. And I mean, I literally just got one. I mean, as we were recording this 3 minutes ago, someone tweeted me and said, "Thank you, dude, for the free Jock Market money. Just joined yesterday. I already think it's epic. After seeing how much fun the free contest was, it wasn't long before I deposited some real money, and I love getting some real money just for playing something I love." Like, could I have asked for a better testimonial while we were recording this?
I know, it's great. It's really the response has been great. The conversation on Twitter where people sharing their, should I buy or sell? How, what do you guys think of my portfolio right now?
Yeah.
It's been really cool to see.
And I guess that's kind of okay. So again, we could do this for hours, but like the idea that you're not necessarily playing against others, right?
Right.
Is okay. So I'll go back. One of the reasons and one of the things that I think I found a little bit of success with my YouTube channel and other things is, when I came into daily fantasy sports, it was very opaque. There was no transparency. No one wanted to give any tips to anyone. No one wanted to help anyone with strategy or anything like that, because in theory, you're playing against one another. In this scenario, and you drew a scenario earlier, Dave, where like two people could profit off of a trade, or two people could find upside in a trade. You're not really playing against each other. You're kind of just buying and selling shares of athletes during their game. So I feel like there's a natural, there's no reason to be secretive or to be super opaque. And I've been impressed with the transparency. And yeah, you're right. People showing, hey, here's my portfolio. What do you think I should do? Should I buy? Should I hold? Should I sell? Like all that good stuff. It feels like a much, I don't want to say better community, but better community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think what's been cool is we have, there's only one event. I mean, there's the free contest you can play for no money, or there's one cash market for golf. It's not like we have, a $200 entry, $10 entry, $5,000 entry, whatever. Everything's different. We had people this event. Someone put in over $4,500 in the IPO. Someone put in, a bunch of people put in, $1 or $3, and everything in between. They're all in the same pool. They, not everybody's going to make money because that's not how it works. But it's not like, just because someone has all their analytics and their data science, whatever they're doing on the back end, and come up with their optimal lineups like they are on other sites, and they hear the 20 golfers I'm targeting, and I come in and I like whatever, I like Dustin Johnson this week, I'm going to buy his share, right? Everyone can make money, and you're not really subject to the same constraints as everybody else. So you play however you want.
I love that. The cash markets are awesome. I'm glad you mentioned the free contest. My buddy Adam, who's a sports fan, but he's not gonna run the numbers or anything like that. He got in on this. He's been only playing the free games. He sends me screenshots like every couple weeks. He's like, oh, now I'm up $200. Now I'm up 300. I'm like, dude, this is phenomenal. So good for you. All right, Dave. So what is, I mean, what's next? I'm sure you guys are, just launched in what, June? You guys are infants in this space. I'm sure people talk about, being able to favorite athletes, keep a watch list. I'm sure people ask about shorting athletes. I mean, where does Jock Market go from here?
Yeah. So those two things are very high on our list. Especially as the field grows. So for a golf field, right, you're going through 150 golfers. It can be a lot to keep scrolling down and finding your guys. So that's something we're actively working on. And especially for figure like an NBA, if you have 14 games in a night, we have even like 7 or 8 guys per team. That's your 250 plus players.
Yeah.
Real quick. So that's on our list. Also being able to filter like position and price and things like that. It's all in the works. On the trading side, shorting is coming soon. I don't want to make any promises on timing, but it's coming.
Make a promise. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to.
But we're excited about that because, in the real stock market, if you wanted to short, your downside is technically infinite because a stock could go to 1 million or go to infinitely high, right? Whereas ours, can only go to 25. So all you'd have to put front is 25 minus the price. And that'll help also squeeze the bid-ask spread as well, and should help improve liquidity. Beyond that, those are the two main things I think we're working on right now. Android was a big one. If you had asked me like 2 weeks ago, getting that.
Yeah, that was definitely the number one question until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. The Google Play Store was not friendly to us for whatever reason. It took a week to get any kind of response from them, and then we responded and wait another week, whatever. Anyway, That's done. The next thing I think also would be opening up a trading API for users who want to, high frequency trade or programmatically trade and say like, I have these X, Y, and Z rules. I'm willing to trade based on these. And that way they're not gonna have any advantage over anybody else. It's just to provide better liquidity to the market. Just having more buyers and sellers in the market is just better for everybody. So.
Right. Now, so I've participated obviously in golf contests. I've participated in NBA. I've participated in NFL. Is that where we're staying? Is that the core? Is there more sports or things coming, or are we just going to stick with these?
Yeah, no. So we're planning to add baseball for the spring for
Okay.
sure. We're also talking about different formats. I don't want to promise anything, but week-long formats for baseball where
Oh,
it'd just be your total scored throughout the week. That way, if you have a good starting pitcher who has a
right.
big night, you could have two good starts and really crush it. And there'd be a lot of trading throughout the week with that, obviously. So football, basketball, golf, baseball. We're also talking about hockey. We've talked about NASCAR, some other sports as well, just sort of based on inbound interest. So people are asking us all the time, hey, can you add this? Can you add that? Just sort of weighing our, obviously we're a tight team right now. So just making sure that we're, allocating our resources appropriately, but also wanting to, provide a good product for people to use. So MLB is definitely coming. I think all the other sports are out there up for grabs. So if anyone listening wants to have a sport, reach out, let me know. We'll get it added.
You're going to give me a reason to get back into baseball, aren't you? It's because,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
and I feel like, the more volatile the sport, I feel like is also more fun, right? You get
Right.
you get a guy batting in the eighth hole, and he hits 2 homers. Like he's,
Yeah.
like, come on, that stock price is going to go,
Right. You talk about the guy IPOs for like $1.10 or something. All he has to do is hit 1 home run that week, maybe, and he,
yeah.
doubles his million.
Oh man, you're gonna get me back into baseball now. All right, Dave. Anything? I mean, I've tried to cover, a little bit of concept, a little bit of strategy, a little bit about what's next. Maybe a lot of the common questions that I get. Are we missing anything big here? While we're together to be able to talk through this.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we just described about what's next, like what's on the horizon, these next couple months is gonna be really exciting. So PGA is starting for the new year, we'll have like a great PGA year, and once all the sports are back, hopefully more consistently and everything and more reliably. Just having markets that people can always join, always something to trade in or an IPO to bid on. We're pretty close to that right now, especially once all the sports are live. So that's really what we're excited about, and just improving liquidity, improving trading, giving people an opportunity, while they're watching the games to have that in-game entertainment, in-game excitement, wherever you are. So
I did think of one thing.
yeah.
So available on both the Apple, so the iPhone, and available on Android. What about our friends north of the border in Canada? Can they play this, or anybody internationally?
So Canada, not at the time we're recording.
Okay.
They will soon. It's just some basically to go international is just a little more work on our back end to make sure our payments provider, ID provider is set up. So it's coming. It's on the list. Other countries besides Canada, so we've had a lot of people reach out to us from the UK. Surprisingly, a lot from New Zealand. I honestly we haven't looked into those yet, but all that stuff is coming. Oh, one other thing too, desktop version is coming at some point early next year. I know that I think the core of the product is being able to watch on your phone. That's how a lot of people will use it. I'm sure power users would certainly approve, would certainly love to have the desktop version as well.
I selfishly would like to share my screen during like live chats or whatever, and be like, all right, here we go. So that would be very cool. Yeah.
Yep.
It's very exciting. Cool. Dave Eisman, Jock Market. You can download it on your iPhone. You can download it on Android. Join us. It is a heck of a lot of fun. And Dave, I appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks so much, Rick.